Hey there, underratedShit here, and welcome to my first anime review. Because of certain current events, I've decided this is probably the best time to talk about Death Note. Now, I'm sure everyone watching has at least heard of Death Note. I mean, who hasn't? It's so widespread. But I'm gonna go with a quick synopsis anyways. Death Note follows the story of Light Yagami as he finds a magical notebook which, you guessed it, is called Death Note. The thing about this notebook is people whose names are written in it die, and Light Yagami uses his power to cleanse the world of those he thinks are dirtying it, namely, criminals. As a result, an elite task force is sent out to catch Light, who is being referred to as Kira. The search is led by a master detective, L. What follows is a huge cat and mouse game where L and Light try to outsmart each other. And that's the basic synopsis of Death Note, and what do I think about it? I think it's a good anime. Mostly. This is underratedShit, a Death Note review. Let's do this. Now I'm gonna break this up into a couple parts, so let's start with Death Note's strongest suit, our two main leads. Light and L are fantastic leads for this story. Frankly, the anime would not work without them. They work as perfect foils for one another, which allows these two characters to be seen at their absolute best. They are two sides of the same coin, each just taking an opposite side. Light is a self-righteous sore loser who will kill anyone who gets in his way. Al is willing to do anything to win, regardless if people around him see it as immoral. They mirror each other so much that some could say very little is different about them. By the time we are well into the action, neither man cares about who is righteous or evil, they just care about winning. It's no longer a battle of right and wrong, it's a battle of their pride. These two characters are the driving force behind Death Note, and the main reason it's so well enjoyed. When watching these two geniuses go head to head, there's rarely a dull moment. Without Light and L, Death Note would have very little left. Now I want to talk about the secondary characters, mainly Ryuk, Misa, and the task force. I want to delve into what they bring to the story. Let's start with Ryuk. Ryuk's purpose is a simple one: to give the audience information. He helps guide the viewer into understanding the rules of the notebook through his explanations to Light. However, he gives us more information than just about the notebook. He also allows us to see into Light's thoughts more, without relying solely on inner monologues. He gives Light an outlet to explain his plans to Ryuk so the audience won't be left in the dark. In terms of character, there isn't much to Ryuk. He is, however, an entertaining presence that looms over the whole anime, which gives Light an air of evil while he wanders innocently down the street. My feelings on Misa are mixed, as she obviously has her pros and cons. Misa Amane is a devout Kira supporter and a Death Note user herself. Her devotion to Light is what makes her a great tool for him. Misa brought a bright and bubbly personality to the story, which was mostly absent from it. In small doses, I feel she is good to have around as a balancer of sorts. At the same time, her presence sometimes seemed either out of place or a little too much. Regardless, she was an interesting way to explore the possibility of a second Death Note appearing, as well as seeing into the view of a Kira devoter, a kind of person that becomes more common as the story progresses. Finally, we'll briefly talk about the task force. Mostly, their role in the story is to be the good guys to oppose Kira. They also played a similar role to L as Ryuk was to Light. While each member had a slightly different personality, the roles didn't differ much from just opposing Kira. The secondary characters of Death Note each have their purpose in the story and help support the main duo of L and Light. I wouldn't go as far to say they are amazing, but they did their job. Now there is one thing I have not talked about or even referenced, which many of you have probably picked up on: the second half of Death Note. I don't want this video to be stretched on too long, so I'll try to keep this brief. The second half of Death Note, that being the time after L's death, was a very lackluster follow-up to the battle between L and Light. Instead of trying to find a new kind of enemy for Light to face, they just recycled L, right down to the design. Mello and Nier, mainly Nier, seemed to me to be like an attempt of making an L2, which is only confirmed when the anime literally tried to make that point itself. The real problem arose when, unlike L, Nier and Mello's deductions never felt earned, more like an ass pull. Watching Nier and Mello oppose Light never seemed as interesting as fun as L vs Light. With L and Light, it was interesting to see them fight not because of how much they differ, but how similar they were. With Nier and Mello, it just feels like the two are having a dick measuring contest and catching Kira is just child's play. I may have called this the second half, but in reality it's only 10 grueling episodes of this contrived, rushed, unsatisfying bullshit. There is plenty I have not delved into, as I wanted to keep this review brief. I may revisit these 10 episodes in the future, but not today. As sad as it is, these 10 episodes really bog down the rest of the series. To wrap this up, I guess I'll give the anime an out of 10 rating. For the first half, I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10, maybe 7.5 if I feel generous. It's an entertaining anime, but far from a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Also, that first OP, just... good job. Good job. The second half, I'd give it a 4 out of 10 because of the poor execution and general lack of entertaining moments. That's it, my first anime review. I'm sorry if this wasn't up to your standards, but I'll try my best to improve. This is my first time after all. If you have anything to share, be it negative or positive, please tell me down below so I can hopefully fix it in the future. Thanks for watching, leave a like, and until next time, underrated shit, out.
Please subscribe.